Hoffwn estyn croeso cynnes I chi a diolch I chi am ymuno a dysgwr rhwydwaith addysgu a dysgu Colegau Cymru. Lucy Hopkins dwi o Colegau Cymru ac rydym ni'n ddiolchgar iawn I Lywodraeth Cymru am ariannu'r digwyddiadau hyn fel rhan o'r rhwydwaith addysgu a dysgu. So cynlluniwyd y digwyddiadau dysgwrdd I roi cyfle I rannu arfer da ac I gefnogi cyfnewid gwybodaeth rhwng cydweithwyr addysg bellach a dysgu seiliedig ar waith ar draws y sector. So good afternoon everyone, a warm welcome to you and thank you for joining the Colegau Cymru Teaching and Learning Network Teachmeet. I'm Lucy Hopkins from Colegau Cymru and we're grateful to Welsh Government for the funding of these events as part of the Teaching and Learning Network. The series of Teachmeets are designed to provide an opportunity to share good practice and to support knowledge exchange between FE and work-based learning colleagues from across the sector. Fe wna I nawr trosglwyddo'r awennau I Steph a bydd yn ein tywys ni drwy'r digwyddiad. So I'll now hand over to Steph, who is going to guide us through the session. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you, Lucy. Hi everyone, I'm Steph Tyndall, Quality Teaching and Learning Manager at Pembrokeshire College, and it's great to have you all here. We're grateful for the time you're given up, to be honest, really appreciate it. To reiterate Lucy's welcome, we're excited about this event from a teaching and learning perspective, but what's really thrilling is the learning area focus of construction. Don't forget, if you're on Twitter, we'd love you to tweet about this event. Please use the hashtag Teachmeet and tag ColegauCymru in your post. That would be fab. Just a little bit of context. Although I'm from Pembrokeshire College, I'm here today representing the South West Wales Professional Learning Network. We call it the PLN, good old FE acronyms. We're made up of the four South West Wales colleges, so Pembrokeshire College, Coleg Gŵyr, Coleg Gŵyr, Gower College, Swansea, Neathport Talbot College group of colleges. As a region, we're very passionate, you've probably already heard, about working together. The PLN meets every week to develop ongoing collaborative working, and we're constantly looking for opportunities to work together, which of course this is one. So I'm sure you had a look at the programme and you'll have seen that we've got some really interesting and topical presentations for you from your construction colleagues in the Southwest. And we've also got some great guest speakers, including Katie Morrison, our keynote speaker for today. So I guess we need to get started. Without further ado, let's kick things off. Welcome our first guest speaker, Gareth Wyn Evans. Gareth is the head of Construction Wales Innovation Centre and is sharing with us the benefits of using immersive technology in construction. And he's going to challenge us to convert our teaching, I'm sure. So thank you, Gareth. Over to you. Gareth, you're on mute at the moment.
Failure number one. At least I'm the first person to make that mistake. Look, so I'll take that on the chin. So most of you already know me. My name's Gareth Wyn Evans and I am the head of the Construction Wales Innovation Centre. Something that I am going to share with you today is a real piece of education and innovation that we've embedded into the curricula across the UK. But today our focus is going to be on Wales and how Wales also have the opportunity to embed immersive learning into construction education. So our project Convert, Construction Virtual Environment Resource Training. What is it? What's it about and how can you get involved? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you today. So hopefully my slides will run. What's the problem? We've been here before. As an educator, we are presented many problems, and one in regards to resources, one that comes up a lot. But essentially, when we first looked at this project, sort of back 3 years ago now, we looked at it and we said, well, there is an aging and unengaging resource problem in our sort of sector. We constantly have to keep on top of updating resources. We also have to make sure that we can sort of influence learners and if we haven't got resources that are engaging them, we are challenged sort of on a regular basis. So get away from that very traditional, sort of PowerPoint presentations or workbooks and get into something so modern and innovative like immersive learning. The other challenge that was laid on us as well, we've all as colleges been given capital monies, capital purchases, and probably many of you have got virtual reality equipment, computers that can drive all this as well in your facilities. You've got the kit, but you've got nothing to essentially play on it. So that again was a reason why Convert was ignited, to essentially put that in place. And this was a big driver for us. We're very much industry facing, and the industry is using the equipment, and education wasn't keeping up. So from our perspective, one of the things that we wanted to do is ensure that the equipment that's being displayed in industry, whether it be from a trades perspective or even at a technical professional level, that there was synergy across education and industry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to give you a short introduction to Convert and play the animation. This will sort of give you a very good overview.
Construction is changing. New technologies are bringing new challenges and opportunities not only to sites, but to the classroom as well. How then can we ensure safe and regular access to training for our learners? How can we make the most of our limited resources, especially with some of our more eager learners? But most importantly, how can we enhance our teaching to keep learners engaged? How? Convert. Convert is a free CITB-funded GB-wide immersive learning project. It aims to enhance the delivery of construction curricula by giving learners earlier access to new and exciting ways of learning, all through an innovative, immersive and safe learning environment. So, get in contact with us today and let us show you how we can help convert your teaching.
Before that starts again, I'll get going. So that gives you a little bit of introduction into Convert and the sort of background, as did I in my sort of opening gambit. But a little bit of background of the project. The project is a CITB funded project, or Construction Industry Training Board project. It was ignited in 2018 for an initial 2-year period. We've had an extension. COVID put a hold on the project for a short while, but we've also had an extension to allow us to deliver it to the start of 2023. So the investment is significant, £2 million across the UK in its entirety. It's led by us at the Construction Wales Innovation Centre. And it's a UK-wide or GB-wide initiative. So, and is actually made up of quite a lot of collaborative partners. So we have software developers, hardware developers, professional bodies, higher and further education providers, all working together to essentially try and meet this challenge. So, what does it try to do? So basically it reduces error, accident, time and costs through targeted use of immersive learning in the workplace. Allows us to essentially get to learners earlier because we're removing many things that we'll sort of see in the next few points. It provides education and employers with cost-effective, scalable opportunities for training that enhances safety and productivity. So what you don't need to do essentially, because a lot of this equipment is loan equipment, you don't need to go down the road of actually procuring this hardware and software yourselves. Essentially, we've taken that hard work from you and you'll be able to access this equipment and the software moving forward for free. It doesn't cost a penny. In terms of engagement, it does definitely provide us. We've done a lot of industry testing. We've done a lot of background educational testing as well. And one of the pieces of feedback that we get all the time is from a learner's perspective, how more engaging this is in regards to many of the traditional teaching methods. What we try to do is showcase how this can work collaboratively with those more traditional means. So essentially, we use the word contextualize, but what this immersive learning does is it allows us to contextualize the learning that may be developed through traditional means and actually demonstrate it immersively during or after or or independently to the session that you deliver. So safety being a key aspect that we picked up earlier, and again, we pick up, traditionally, one of the challenges that we had and one of the areas that we cover would be woodworking machines. Traditionally, learners wouldn't be allowed really to access woodworking machines until maybe the end of second, early third year. This very much sort of, gamified system lets learners actually access the machinery and the knowledge base required at maybe on entry or during that sort of first year. So, it is very much driven, content driven and guided as well. So, the learner isn't just playing a game and doesn't know what's coming up next. The learner is on the journey and supported on that journey. And, one of the key aspects as well is to enhance the industry and to demonstrate that we're on a drive, we're on a sort of a digital drive. So key areas of provision for us, and this is where we can sort of embed it into our learning. So one of the most well-used parts of Convert is VB. So that's Virtual Built Environment Element Explorer. Like Steph mentioned acronyms, and earlier we love those sort of as well. And VB, as it's known, essentially allows learners to build a house, build a building, and travel through the whole process. And you'll hear from that in a little while from Hugh, who'll introduce how he's embedded VB and used it in one of his sessions. But essentially, it lets them select 3 different types of buildings, whether it be residential, industrial, or off-site, modular. And then that journey is from a client overview, when a client gives a brief, all the way through to actual completion, and the learner also gets to download their results. So again, you may think about, how do we actually assess learners during immersive learning? Well, we can assess, and we do when we allow the learners then to be scored against their metrics and against what maybe the client brief asked them to do. The next area being working at height and scaffolding. Again, as educationalists, we would need to embed this in our learning. We have a scaffolding training centre ourselves, very specialist, but all our learners need to learn about scaffolding and what it's like to work at height. We can do this now immersively, and it's very, very realistic, and it actually scares a lot of people when the first module takes somebody up on a scaffold and they, without giving anything away, essentially an accident happens. And some people have actually sort of been quite disturbed by the fact that how realistic it was. But also when we drive into sort of more detail, you can also pick up elements like the component identification and scoring and so on. So, it isn't just very much about sort of, visualize and show and tell. There is actually sort of an element of learning and assessment within that as well. The next one, again, keen on the point of innovation, being drones in construction, and that outlines the role of UAVs and drones and how we utilise them for building surveying and various tasks within the industry. The next area, and again, these are 2 very well used areas, being woodworking machines and paint spraying. So what we have there are two of the only pieces of equipment in the UK of their ilk. You have a woodworking machine simulator and a paint spraying simulator, and these simulators were a significant investment for us. But again, these are available and they use a means of mixed reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, and motion tracking. So the latest sort of innovations sort of within immersive tech to deliver. And again, picking up assessment, you can see on the photos there's a lot of assessment that's happening. There's a lot of crosses, a lot of ticks, a lot of reds, greens and blues. Those are all assessment means essentially. So what have we got? And what you see on screen there now is actually freely available. I mentioned, earlier, you've probably got a lot of this equipment yourselves, and we can enable software. We can share that with you. But also, if you haven't, don't worry, because we've got the hardware at Quick in Swansea. but also at our partner in North Wales, Coleg Gŵyr. So essentially, what that allows us to do is create a mechanism to deliver this across the UK. So being Wales specific, we do have 2 hubs, and these are access points for you guys to be able to access this equipment from. In Swansea, we have the means to bring the equipment to you. So we have a project technician and a project manager that will bring the equipment to you, train your trainers, train yourselves how to use it, and then let you use it in that background with your own learners, sort of guiding you through the process in the early stages, and then letting you sort of experiment by yourselves, sort of moving on. But this project is a UK-wide project, so we do also have representation then Scotland, England, in addition to Wales. So great, yeah, if you want to know a little bit more about Convert, feel free to drop Julie, Chris or myself a contact. And yeah, definitely look forward to see how Convert can sort of convert your learning and teaching by the use of immersive learning. Diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Diolch, thank you, Gareth. That was great. And obviously, as you said, it goes without saying that technology is high on all of our agendas at the moment. Now, we've got a treat in some ways because Gareth and our next presenter were a bit of a wrestling tag team. I was going to ask for wrestling names, but I thought better of it. So we now have Hugh Thomas from Coleg Gŵyr, who's been working closely with Gareth in the Construction Wales Innovation Centre to convert his teaching. So over to you, Hugh, to share with us immersive learning in action. Thank you.
Great, diolch yn fawr iawn. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to highlight what this amazing resource can do. I just want to share my screen quickly. I'll just jump into this. Let's start from the beginning. So yeah, my name is Hugh Thomas. I'm head of section, pennaeth adran ar campus Aberteifio, Coleg Gŵyr, Coleg Gŵyr, and I'm head of section on the Cardigan campus of Coleg Gŵyr, Coleg Gŵyr. There's no doubt, we're entering an age where we're finding it difficult to recruit into construction industry, which is quite an issue considering we have an aging population of skilled workers. So therefore, we as tutors, educators, influencers in many respects, we need to encourage the next generation of skilled workers and professionals into the construction industry. Convert is an amazing application and opportunity. Gareth at Quick has embraced the technology. He's used his industrial experience and know-how and packaged it, so it provides so much benefit to learners, but also it provides awareness and training in a safe environment. It doesn't pose any risks and gives the younger generation a platform they can relate to, an Xbox controller. We were privileged to be the pilot host for the first group to use Convert. We had a year 11 group of Ysgol Prosiect pupils they attend the campus in Cardigan once a week. They study towards their constructing the built environment WJEC qualification. So any additional relevance we could bring to their learning would be greatly appreciated, especially during the time of COVID and lockdown, where we were limited on the amount of trips and visits we could use to further enhance learning. So as Gareth was saying, we were the pilot between Quick, CIOB, Coleg Gŵyr and Coleg Gŵyr, and obviously the year 11 Prosiect pupils. But also we were privileged to have Wyn Harris, a local architect who runs his own design management company in Ymgysylltiad, so he was also on board. So the first Convert application was to design and build the setup actually was where the year 11 Prosiect pupils came to the campus in Cardigan. As you can see, Gareth had his high-spec laptops all to hand, which the pupils were quite impressed with to start off with. And then, yeah, it took a bit of obviously setting up because, to be fair, it's a new system. A pilot is always a tricky situation. But yeah, Gareth and obviously Rodri, the carpentry tutor, they got them all hooked up, and the pupils were ready to go. So the first initial scene, if you like, was obviously us introducing ourselves. Because of COVID restrictions, we remained online. So myself, the two, Laura and Gerald Naylor from CIOB, along with Wyn Harris. So we did a quick introduction, went through what this, what the day would bring to these learners, and how this journey would further enhance their learning in a way, because these learners, they started with us in sort of September, obviously 2020. We were in the depth of COVID restrictions. We were obviously carrying out a lot of theory sessions in this particular classroom here, with very minimal sort of contact time in the practical setting, unfortunately. So it was all sort of simulated. So Gareth, obviously we got into the Convert application. So this particular application, it's very intuitive. It's a design and build sort of process. So the learners now had to use their knowledge which they'd gained from the previous year, because these were year 11 pupils. So they were now having to use their knowledge of obviously foundations and natural sort of foundations and soil types to choose what type of foundations they would use, and also considering then obviously sustainability, sourceability, whether obviously how far the materials have to be transported and all, and locally sourced, and all these what we refer to as everyday sort of terms. These learners had to get to grips with those, and this platform then would tell them then how sustainable that choice would be. But while they were doing that, then they had the opportunity to ask, well, ourselves as experts, of course, but we were there on hand, the two CIOB members, Wyn Harris obviously being a professional architect, myself as a tutor. We were able to advise them. I think I got it wrong a few times. But yeah, and the groups of learners then basically essentially built their own house, and then it would give them points as they sort of progressed through the session. And then towards lunchtime then, so this obviously this was taking place over the course of a few hours, and then they had to collate all this information into a PowerPoint presentation, and then they would obviously present back to the group and in front of us then as a sort of online peers, if you like. So, for these learners, as most of you would know, school pupils, if you've got children of your own, they're not the most outgoing. There's one or two, there are plenty to say, obviously, but, they're a brilliant bunch of lads. But we definitely put them out of their comfort zones in asking them to present their findings, and what they delivered actually was outstanding. They were able to sort of integrate terms, so it's just key construction terms really, and most of these now have finished year 11 and they've progressed on to construction courses. Some have obviously come to us in Ceredigion because they're from the locality of Cardigan. But most of them, I would imagine, have gone to Pembrokeshire College. So, but that's a fantastic outcome, because these, and it may not even be in carpentry or bricklaying. Obviously, there's electrical and plumbing in Pembrokeshire as well. So, that is, most of them have progressed into the industry, and that's what's important, really. As far as the technology, to know that this is readily available. And we've already booked actually, because we're still in the mix of COVID restrictions, so we have to be mindful of that, obviously. But we've already booked slots where we're already planning to take a group of learners down to the quick building in SA1 in Swansea, and we're going to make the most of this opportunity, because it's I think this is the future. This is what the younger generations strive for. They need an understanding of, it's not just about bricklaying and carpentry. Obviously, it is to do with the immersive technology. It is to do with, what we call the buzzwords at the moment. But that's the future. This young lad, he was using this virtual technology here, and he'd openly say that he's never used that kind of stuff before, and he would take it back home and tell his parents. So it is for us as an institution, it is only a positive, and as well for the school. Ysbrydoli were delighted, with the outcome. The head teacher, actually, obviously she joined us at a later date. Gareth, actually, as well. Gareth actually went to this school. I delivered then to another group because we had two-year groups coming from Ysgol Preseli. So he did exactly the same, actually delivered in the school. So, you know, it was a fantastic experience, and I can only, you know, recommend this platform and the whole convert. I've been down myself to the Quick in Swansea, and I've used the various platform display here, the woodworking machine. And for us as a college who deliver obviously carpentry and joinery, bench joinery, then, you know, the woodworking machinery application is fantastic as well. So conclusions really for myself would be, you know, obviously it brings the construction industry to life, you know, during the pandemic, encouraging young people into the sector. It's an immersive and remote, you know, training which is engaging. It's cost effective, you know, for providers. Most learners can relate to gaming platforms these days. Therefore, immersive learning platforms, they can obviously relate to that sort of stimulation. And digital technology has now created an appetite within different sectors. We're all now thinking differently at how we can provide training. So that's it from me. Diolch yn fawr iawn am y cyfle. Thank you for the opportunity, and I can only recommend and encourage you all to use the Convert application. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really interesting, and a very good tag team there. I agree that immersive and remote training is engaging, as you just said, and cost effective, but I like the last point you made in relation to safety, that the learners can take risks and experience things that we just couldn't allow them to do in reality in our curriculum. So really interesting. Thank you, Hugh. And so everybody, if you haven't already linked up with Gareth and the team, I do hope that both he and Hugh have inspired you to get in touch and to take that step into converting your teaching in some way, shape or form. Okay, so before we hear from your South West Wales colleagues, I have the pleasure in welcoming our keynote speaker for this Teach Meet, Katie Morrison. Katie is Senior Site Manager for Kia Construction. I know that Katie's going to share her journey with you, so I won't give you any more detail in relation to an introduction, or I'll steal her thunder. But Katie, thank you so much for being with us today, and over to you.
Thank you so much. I think I've unmuted myself and hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Also, really interesting PowerPoints up until now. I'd never seen some of the stuff that you were doing there, so that's really good to see. And like you say, attracting some young people into the industry through technology and showing them there's a little bit more than an Xbox and a PlayStation. So as Steph said, I'm Katie Morrison. I am a Senior Site Manager. I'm working for Kia Construction. I'm currently working up at Coleg Gŵyr actually in Ysbrydoli on a £6 million project where we're doing an extension to an existing building for new painting and decorating facilities. So very interesting and lovely weather, as you can imagine, up in Ysbrydoli. So areas then that I'm going to cover today will be my journey and my personal experience of the industry. The industry where I see it currently, and just basically how I think that we could maybe change little things to attract people into the industry, and then the future. So I'll get on with it. So my career journey then, first of all, I was working with my dad. His business is a groundworks business in Pembrokeshire, Haverfordwest, and I would drive a dumper and a roller for him through the summers. And I thought this would be a great role for me. I wanted to be a ground worker, and that's what I wanted to do for my career. Obviously changed my mind when the weather was the way it is today, and thought, let's have a look at what options there are in colleges. So I then went to Pembrokeshire College. I did a National Diploma in Construction. And during that national diploma, I learned a lot more about construction than I ever knew was available. I learned all the different roles. So we did a bit of design, a bit of quantity surveying, a little bit of construction management. And it was construction management that attracted me then to that sort of role. So I then did some work experience, which Pembrokeshire College actually assisted me with. So they gave me some contacts for all different companies within the industry. So I went to Kia and asked them if I could get some work experience prior to starting a career in construction and making sure it was the right thing for me. So in 2010, I went for a summer placement with Kia and found out that they did an apprenticeship scheme. So I started an apprenticeship scheme with Kia, which was 5 years. I got a BSc Honours in Construction Management, where I then graduated from university in 2015. I became an assistant site manager, along with getting my degree, which was obviously fully funded by Kia, which was great. I then got promoted to a site manager in 2016, and then last year I was lucky enough to be promoted again to a senior site manager. So been with Kia now for 10 years and hopefully keep progressing throughout my career with them. So a little bit then about the industry and my personal experience. When I first came into the industry, I thought it would be quite intimidating. I thought it was very male dominated. As I said, I didn't realise there were so many different roles within construction. Obviously, you've got roles from a bricklayer through to a BIM coordinator, design managers. There is such a varied amount of roles. So I was, first of all, very excited to hear about all these different roles. But I was a little bit confused to how I hadn't heard of these before actually starting within the industry. I was thinking, why did no one come into my school and talk about all these different amazing jobs that there were in construction, not just for boys, but for girls as well. So also I started learning about apprenticeship opportunities, where you've got like your shared apprenticeship schemes, you've got your apprentices that do degrees or your apprentices that do trade options. And I just thought this was brilliant. So I also started finding out that it didn't matter whether you were a girl or a boy, as long as you had the passion and the want to do the role, you could definitely do it. And I do think that that is definitely something that is changing within construction now, that people are definitely encouraged to come in, whether you are a girl or boy, and definitely the opportunities are there for you. But when I did join, I remember I couldn't get a high-vis vest that would fit me, a hard hat wouldn't fit me, glasses were very big, and there was nothing really that fitted women. And I found that a little bit off-putting, I would say. And it was also that there was no ladies' toilets on the site, and there were certain experiences that maybe they didn't necessarily want us to do as women because we were women. But what I would say is that was 2010. I would say now things have definitely improved. For instance, there's PPE now that fit. They fit their size 8, 10, whatever size anyone would like. The toilet facilities are not even a discussion anymore. They come with our cabins, and that is the standard, which is great. There are definitely great progression opportunities within the industry now for women, and it is based on your ability and not your gender. However, I would say, which is one of the points that I've got on my slide here, is retention, I think, is a difficult one for the industry when it comes to women. Because of, obviously, women will go off and have families, then they would come back and maybe like to have that flexibility. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, construction programmes don't get any longer, they often get shorter. So we work long hours, often weekends, and that flexibility doesn't seem to be within the industry yet. So I think that is definitely an area that as an industry we need to look at. So, is construction just for boys? So basically, I've been doing some research into it, and when I first joined the industry, only 10% of the industry were female, and 90% were male. Now that has improved by 4% in 10 years, which isn't a lot, but it's definitely an improvement, which is great. I think there's obviously a long way to go, to get a 50-50 balance. I think we've got a lot of work to do in schools and definitely in colleges, but I think we are definitely on the right track to attracting women into the industry and into all these different roles available. So one thing that I did find very interesting was what we found in 2021 is that 37% of new entrants into construction from further education were women, which is great. So I definitely think colleges are doing something right and making sure that you have got diverse teaching facilities, and you're definitely making sure that your education is for both females and males, which is brilliant to see. And I think that year on year, hopefully, if we keep going the way we're going, that will improve. So I just wanted to talk about the benefits of the industry. So great career progression, as I demonstrated to you at the beginning of my presentation. Brilliant support networks. So you've got your CIOB, which I think Hugh touched on earlier, where you've got people like Wynne, who are great people to know within the industry, great experience, and they create great networks. We've got Females First in Construction, and then you've also got Women's Engineering Society. And all of these networks are full of people that have been there, done the role, have got all the experience, and these are the people that should be coming into colleges and schools and having these conversations with young people to make them realise what opportunities are available within the industry. So in my obviously different research that we've been doing, there are some great initiatives in place, which I'm sure obviously everyone on this call probably already aware of, such as the STEM-related studies, trying to encourage more women into that, and the 50-50 campaign with the Welsh Government to try and encourage talented women for a successful Wales. I think, as my previous slide shown, we are on the right track. 37% of females coming into construction from further education is brilliant and really, really encouraging. So the future then, what I think as an industry, as construction professionals, people within construction teaching as yourselves, I think we need to start in schools. We need to go in, talk about different careers within construction, highlight all the different opportunities available to all these young women. Also role models, so people like myself, people like architects, bricklayers, carpenters. We need to go in and be the face of construction and show these young people that you can do it, everyone can do it, whether they're female or male, and what opportunities are actually available for them. There's so many different pathways for women in construction, whether that means that they come in as a trade and then they progress to a supervisor, site manager, and just keep going. But also it's like transferable skills. Just because you're a manager somewhere else, those managerial skills can come with you into construction. The technical knowledge can come, but it's just we just need to attract these people into the industry initially. And then it's looking more at work-life balance. And I think since COVID and since everything that's gone on in the last 2 years. I think a lot of people want that work-life balance, they want that agile working and that flexibility. And I think as an industry, with all of the technology that's available to us now, it's got to be something that we've got to move towards and keep encouraging, which I think will ultimately attract more people, whether that be male or female, into our industry, and attract it to young people. As Hugh previously said, you know, we've got an ageing workforce. We need to make sure that it's still attractive, it's keeping up with technology, and we're moving forward with the generation. So I think in regards to you as further education, I think great that what you're doing, 37% is amazing, but I think definitely we can do more. You know, doing things like little things like making sure they've got PPE that fits, you know, making sure that the females within your courses are seen as equals, they get the same opportunities as the boys. And I think that we can definitely get a 50-50 split if we just keep doing what we're doing. That's it for my presentation. I did have a slide saying any questions, but I think we were going to pick them up in the chat. So that's me, Steph.
Thank you, Katie, so much. Yes, if there's any questions, please put them in the chat, because Katie's with us and we'll be able to either respond in the chat or we'll get back to you afterwards, after the session. But thank you, Katie. And yes, really interesting to see that 37% coming from FE, females from into construction. But for us as colleges, I just want to pick up on a couple of the points that Katie said at the end there. It's a real challenge then for us as colleges to not just say, yes, come and do construction to our female learners, to not just be, you know, accepting and affirming of women in construction, but to monitor our female learners' journey and the learning environment while they're with us and training with us, and see what needs to be improved, what experience are they having. So I think it's really important as colleges now to take from Katie's experience and her journey to say, right, you know, what are we going to do for our female learners to just monitor and make sure that they're having a positive learning experience and that they are being treated as equals and everything is in place for them. And, you know, to work with our current female learners in construction and the trades and engineering alike, to learn from them, because they can help us with our future female learners in construction, can't they? So thank you for highlighting that, Katie. Really
No problem.
Brilliant, really really vital. And I just want to thank you again for being with us today. I know that you're up to your eyes in it on site, and actually you've had to really set things aside to come and join us. So thank you so much. Really.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving into our regional element now, and I'd like to thank in advance the managers and lecturers really who are about to present or share their practice with us. We're starting with Ian Lumsding from NPTC Group of Colleges. Ian's going to highlight the benefits and value of working together, which we're seeing right now, but by sharing with us his experience of leading our regional collaborative project. Some of you may have been involved in it. We had a regional collaborative project in construction, and Ian led this. So thanks, Ian, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Steph. There we are. Okay. Difficult task of following Katie there. Excellent presentation there. If I talk a little bit about the project, the aim of it really was to get all the providers in the South West Wales region together to look at how we could perhaps help avoid duplication and wasted energy with practitioners developing resources in the region. There's an enormous amount of good practice going on, and we wanted to capture that and perhaps to identify a benchmark whereby we could recognise what is really good practice in further education and construction, and see if we could develop a model that could be perhaps transferred across a region to a national basis, and also would lend itself to facilitating across other sectors. So that really is what the background to the project is about. It sounds quite simplistic, getting everybody together in the region and identifying what's working well and sharing the good practices that are taking place every day. However, there were many challenges to this. I think if we look at the providers in the region, traditionally, many of us would be competing from the same for students from the same pool. Recruitment of staff into FEs, particularly in construction, is becoming more difficult, and traditionally we might be even trying to poach staff from each other. If we look at practitioners, historically, practitioners have tended to work in silos, and they've developed resources and perhaps been reluctant to share them amongst their peers. So the idea of getting practitioners to develop resources and to share them with staff across other colleges, it required a lot of trust, and that trust wasn't developed overnight. It did come, and it's still ongoing, but it was a barrier perhaps that we had to break down, and we had to gain the trust and the confidence of all the practitioners involved, because they're giving up a lot of their time, their energy, and their expertise. As we've heard already this afternoon, there's an enormous amount of good practice taking place in the sector. Gareth and Wyn have talked about the Convert project, and there are many other good examples from lots of providers of excellence in the sector. What is difficult is knowing who is doing what and then capturing that so everybody can benefit from the excellent resources and the excellent practices, and we avoid duplication and wasted energy by repeating what's already been done or trying to achieve some of the standards that already exist. I think Hugh mentioned there that operating in the pandemic has brought its own challenges, and whilst this project was very important to everybody involved in it, everybody did have their day jobs, which were made much more difficult by the fact that COVID was present, and managers and staff were dealing with lots of operational issues in trying to keep everybody safe, and their health and welfare was paramount at that time, and still continues to be so. In terms of what went well with the project, I would say there was definitely a desire between all the partners in the region to collaborate, and everybody saw the benefits of working together to, as I said previously, to avoid wasted energy, avoid duplication, and to perhaps make the roles of teaching staff easier. We're very familiar with the latest survey from the EWC, where lecturers are saying that their workloads are increasing. There's a lot of admin, a lot of bureaucracy. So if we can help those practitioners to focus more on teaching and learning by developing resources, sharing the good practices, and making them available to practitioners, then that would help them in their roles, and undoubtedly the students would benefit. During the project, we found that there's a lot of external partners who are doing some good work. We've already this afternoon heard about the work of the CIOB, the CITB, industry, as Katie mentioned, they play a pivotal part in this. And without industry, really, why does FE exist would be a question. But the TOWIE Centre, Timo Lime, lots of good practice going on externally outside our regional providers. I think what we were able to do as a group, we benefited from having Chris Curtis within the group, and Chris is the chair of Bach Wales, and he's a very influential voice in terms of the new qualifications and what's happening in the sector. So we were able to be guided by Chris's views and help perhaps articulate and influence our thoughts and perspectives on how the new qualifications could develop and help shape them so that the whole sector could benefit from them. So we're very, very grateful to Chris again for his input in this project. The outcomes, well, I think we've helped move towards developing resources for the practitioners in the region. We've got examples of some exemplary lesson plans, presentations and demonstrations, so that if there is a practitioner who is perhaps new to the sector and they're struggling as to what it is constitutes good practice, they'll be able to go onto this site and have access to these resources and perhaps learn from the expertise that exists. I think what came out of the project is that there are centres that are moving towards best practice and becoming centres of excellence. Gareth spoke there about Convert. Chris is in Pembroke is doing a lot with traditional heritage, and we can help then capture this and avoid duplication and share it amongst ourselves. We also went into topics such as bilingualism, which is hugely important, classroom management. We do have some disaffected, disengaged learners that come to us from compulsory education, and we discussed strategies for incorporating them and developing them and embedding them in mainstream teaching and learning. The next steps, as a group, BARC are going to go and discuss future funding with CITB and ColegauCymru to be able to maintain this project and make sure it's sustainable and relevant. There is a platform on Hub which all providers will have access to, and the resources will be available there. The site will be live hopefully next week once translation has taken place. And the idea is that this will be, as I say, kept live, up to date, and resources will be increasingly populated onto it, and therefore it won't fall behind. There's a need to develop resources for the new progression qualification, and we think that on the back of this project, we will use it as a springboard and secure funding to make that available, and hence, again, avoid duplication for practitioners and improve the teaching and learning experience for students, not only in the region, but across Wales and perhaps the UK. That is very much a whistle-stop tour of a lot of work that went into the regional project. I appreciate it's difficult to ask me any questions this evening, but contained is my email address, and if anybody would like to know any more about the project, I'd be more than happy to get involved. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Ian. Brilliant. Thank you. Obviously, as chair of the PLN for the South West, I'm already completely sold on collaborative working, but you've just shared with us a perfect example of collaborative practice in action. So thank you. Especially poignant, I would think, was your point about flipping the feeling of competition, competing for our learners, and that projects like these help to change that mindset, I think, and focus on the positives of working together rather than the negatives. So thank you again, Ian, for leading the project, actually. Thank you for leading that as well as sharing with us today. Right, we're staying with NPTC Group of Colleges for the next 3 presentations. They are the stars of the show this evening. So starting with Geraint Lloyd, managing positive behaviour, always a hot topic, and even more so now as we're experiencing the challenge post-COVID learning. I think we'd all agree. So Geraint, and over to you.
Hello, Steph. Thanks, everybody. Some challenging, very good PowerPoints and presentations to follow. So bear with me. Okay, so just a little bit about myself first. So obviously I've been in the construction industry for 20 years. Started with MPTC Group myself. Then I became an apprentice for 3 years. Then from there I became a tradesman. Then I became a team leader. Then I became a site foreman. And then from there I became an operations director. So quite a varied, career over the years. 5 years ago I made the jump into the education sector. Now I'm the Senior Lecturer of Skills and Progression in MPTC Group, and I feel quite privileged and proud really to be asked to present my good practice on how I deal with student behaviour and engagement. So I'd like to share with you some of the things that I do that manages the challenging behaviour we could come across. So basically, when students come to us, they could have a number of challenging behaviour issues. So it could be health, additional learning needs, change. The simple change of coming from school to the college is, it's a big change for a lot of students. The home environment, being a dad as well, I'd like to create a positive environment. Some of the kids coming to us, their environments ain't as positive as some would like to be, which is, can have a negative factor on learning. Boredom, that's quite a simple one, and it sounds basic and simple, but they could be bored. So how do we come across all that? So when my students come in and enroll, I do my homework. I go on the system and I check each and every student, and I basically do a student plan. So for these student plans and profiles, I'll see if they got any health issues that they haven't disclosed to myself or a colleague, any additional learning needs, and any criminal convictions that I might not have been aware of. So after I've created that plan, what I tend to do then, I tend to do a simple task where the students need to go on Office 365, create the PowerPoint or a Word document. So again, I'm just trying to keep them engaged. And on this document, what I want them to do is explain to me who they are, what they like, what they don't like, and what their goals are in the 2 or 3 years they're going to be with me as a pupil. So then I'll get to know them, and then it creates a nice friendly environment and a positive environment. So as we get to teach, then I try to turn any negatives into positives. So if they're coming in from a poor environment, a negative one, I try to take that into a positive environment, where I try to be a role model then. Then I model that behaviour throughout the year. Some of these students come to us and they've never had praise, which is, again, a negative factor. So they like to have praise, for any little bit of work, they'd like to have praise. I established a class code of conduct. Coming into the education environment is a bit difficult for me, but I did have 1 or 2 colleagues that helped me along the way. I believe one is a member in the audience, Danny Meredith. He taught me how to do this code of conduct. So basically, I would set rules myself, and then I'd work with the students on where they would meet me sort of with these rules, because they're coming from a school where the rules are strict, coming to college a bit more free and laid back. So we work together to set these rules. So when we set these rules together, they tend to not break these rules. So that works well. Communicate well, it's nice and clear communication, so there's no cross lines. Recognise good behaviour and achievements. So like I've touched on before, some of these kids have never had positive feedback or praise before, in house or in school. So it's nice that when they do achieve, we give them nice positive feedback and recognise it. And in my particular area, in plastering, we tend to do students of the month. So it's not always the top students who get the student of the month. It's the students who generally improve every weekend. Week in, week out, do improve. They could be the lower ability learner, but if there's constant improvement in behaviour, they will tend to get the student of the month, which promotes more good behaviour with that student or his peers. Try to keep class disruptions minimal. Again, it sounds simple, but when you've got challenging students, how do you do it? So we try to keep that disruptions as minimal. We go maybe have an early break, then it's how you time things. If the parents, are not aware of this behaviour in college, like some, like I got boys, I would say, no, my son wouldn't do that, but who knows, my 14-year-old teenager. But communicate with parents. Some, you know, are unaware, then they will work with you to promote this good behaviour. So I've got a bit of a classroom management mantra, you know, a bit long-winded, sorry, but it's basic stuff. Use routines. So every morning I've got the same routine. You know, they come in at the rule we set. You know, the lesson plan and everything is on the board. So they come in, they know what we're doing. You know, so increase self-esteem. Again, touching on what their home life is like, or, you know, what previous school life has been like. We should try and promote self-esteem within. Show students you do care. You know, I'm quite good at that. I have got a care inside. Show them I care. I ask them about how the weekend was, like go through the learning plans. If they've got a particular hobby, I ask them about their hobby. You know, and if they've got likes, dislikes, I ask them about it. If your role model have gone to, and change it up. I always tend to change up different lessons. At the end of each term, I normally get them presenting something we've learned that month. So again, it gets them teaching me. It gets them keeping them interested. Another basic one, feedback. Again, create positive feedback. It's something simple. I could say, you know, well done. That's a great joint. That is, you know, blah blah blah. Constructive feedback. Don't give them negative feedback. That's when you lose them, and then they tend to misbehave the following week. Feed forward feedback. So what I mean by feed forward is the students like to know where they're going next and how to get there. So that always works well. Role models. So again, I try and promote myself as a good role model, and where I've been, where I've gone, etc. A good weapon for me, I've used past students before now who were ex-students who tended to go down the route of not very good student, they were misbehaved, poor engagement, but then they've come back 10 or 15 years later and they've achieved the goal of having a trade and then becoming a director or a sole trader of their own company. That's a very good one I've used. So, and I'm present students. So I like, obviously you're not going to go for any questions tonight, but if you'd like to ask me anything, feel free to send me an email and maybe you can set up a Teams chat and we can get together. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Geraint, so much. That was great. Managing behaviour is so important, as we all know, but I think the important thing, and you mentioned it there, but I think we all need to think about is constant reflecting our own practice. Consider whether we're managing the behaviour in the right way. We don't always do it in the right way, and we need to reflect to work that out. So thank you so much for being so honest in how you manage the behaviour of learners. The best outcome for us and the learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Diolch.
Thank you, Geraint. Yeah, thank you. Our next offering is also then from NPTC Group of Colleges, and it has a stretch and challenge focus. So I'd like to welcome Matthew Griffiths. Matthew, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Geraint. Another difficult presentation to follow. My name is Matthew Griffiths. I'm a carpentry lecturer first and a senior lecturer in teacher learning in the college as well. I've been asked to talk about how I stretch and challenge in the classroom and the workshop. A lot of times, if you look at online for stretch and challenge techniques in education, a lot of time it's academic, not a lot on how we do it in vocational. So that's what I'm trying to aim at, what we do in construction at Neath. So looking back to when I taught in secondary schools, if you give a free lesson, if you cover a supplies teacher and you cover a lesson and you say to the students, oh, you've got a free lesson, do what you want, just go on and do work quietly, it quite quickly becomes more difficult than actually giving the students work to do. And that's the most simple form of stretch and challenge for me. By not challenging the students, you're not going to get the behaviour that you require. So first thing to look at is what is stretch and challenging. So the way I see it anyway, is if you ask a student to do a task that's too simple for them, or a question, ask them the question that the answer is obvious to them, they're going to get bored quickly. So the task and the question needs to be relevant to keep them engaged and to improve their learning. So an example of that being a carpentry lecturer, if I asked a student to cut a straight piece of wood over and over again. Now the first 1 or 2 times they do that fine and they'd be engaged, but they quickly become bored of doing the same task over and over. But the task is really important, as repetition is important in the trade for muscle memory and the rest of it. So we need to keep the repetition, but also add some specific alterations to the task to keep the students engaged. So rather than just saying, cut that wood straight over and over again, the first time they cut it straight, they cut it, then they can cut it to a certain size, but still cut straight. Cut it to a certain depth, but still cut straight. Cut it to a certain angle. So you're changing the task. It's the same task, the same muscle memory is being learnt, but the actual the challenge is being changed to keep the students engaged and improve their learning. So that's one perfect way of looking at stretch and challenge in a practical environment. And stretch and challenge actually lends itself to construction and vocational subjects really well. And we do a lot of it automatically. So in a classroom based on activity, how can we use stretch and challenge in activities? Is it could be an extension task, not always, but extension. It could be a variation to that task. Group work's a really good way of stretch and challenge. You know, I tend to use a lot of mixed ability group work, and the higher ability students with lower ability students, the higher ability students are challenged to bring on the lower ability, and the lower ability students are the lower ability students are actually recruitment malfunction. Lower ability are actually they are challenged to improve themselves up to the same standard of the higher ability. This only works. It's important to point this out. This depends on you, the teacher, and how you know your class. So if that group work only works in certain dynamics, and you're the only person who can assess that. But it is a really good way, mixed ability group, and it's a really good way we use stretch and challenge in construction. Setting goals and short and long-term target setting is a massive part of education, and it's a great way of getting the same outcome for different students with different abilities. So with some students who are more focused and they can work to longer term targets, they can carry on working right through, like something like a synoptic test. Well, a lower ability can still get the same target, but they may need smaller scaffolded targets, like breadcrumbs lead into the same outcome. Okay, so that's another way of stretch and challenge. And the same with long-term goals. So like a long-term goal is obviously to finish the course, but we can set specific longer-term targets for that. It's important to remember that in an ideal world, we would be planning the stretch and challenge every student individually. Now that takes a lot of planning, and that is the ultimate goal of what we want to get to, but it's not going to come overnight. So it's a lot of grouping and timetabling the right groups, the right dynamics before we actually start going into that. But in an ideal world, every student have an independent plan for their own stretch and challenge. So one of the ways I stretch and challenge straight at the very start of the lesson is I use something called a thunk. Okay, so a thunk is a seemingly simple question about everyday things and makes you think. For example, what is a thought made out of? Now this will be on the board when the students are in the classroom. And my pet hate is when students turn up on time and you've got to tell them students to wait for the students to turn up late. I don't like that. I tend to get the students at time, give them a task to do, and the students turn up late, they're going to get caught up. It's not their fault that they're early or on time. So I think could be on the board. It doesn't need to be a carpentry, but they can work through that independently. And the idea is to get them in the mood for thinking straight away. So you get them thinking from the outset. So it's a nice start to get that going and get the juices flowing. You can also use homework in that way to prepare students before they come into the lesson, so they do work before they come to the lesson. And we can prepare resources that the students can get on with on their own, and they can be challenging resources so they can get work straight away, and it gives you time to do other things in the classroom. And the last couple of things I want to talk about is where we want students to be. We try and make students be in this struggle zone. We don't want to be in a position where the work's too easy. There's very little challenge, very little stress. But we don't want it to be too stressful and too challenging either. We want them where there's high challenge but low stress, and that's where the most learning takes place. So what we aim for is to get the students in what we call the zone of proximal development. So in between things they can't do and things they can do, we want them to be somewhere, things they can do with our help, and that's what we're there for. So my main thing is they need to leave the room feeling they've had to work for what they've learned. We haven't just give it to them. They've worked for that learning, and then they are going to want to learn more in the future off that. What are two little points if I got time? Struggle time is when you are, as teachers, we feel sorry for the kids. We get anxiety of the student. When we ask them a question and they don't answer it, we try and help out. It's their own nature. But if we just make that a little bit longer, okay, or if they answer it correctly, ask them another probing question, then that's going to force them, put them in a little bit of a high stress, but force them to get more learning out of that. Synoptic tests again. So rather than testing at the end of every unit, use a synoptic test scenario. So we do one test over multiple units. You've seen what they've done all year, not just what they've done the last couple of weeks. And pace is a massive one. So pace can be faster or slow. They're both good, and they can be used in both ways. But learning takes time, but sometimes faster paces are needed. Students can drift and dawdle if you give them too much time. So a real good way I've seen in the last few years, especially the advancing technology, is using timers and stopwatches on the board, because that enforces urgency. And urgency is a good tool for a teacher to have. And too often we get good students, we give them the work, and then we give them too much time to do it. So that's a good way of enforcing the stretch and challenge. That's all I got for it, really. I just wanted to point out how I do things, and I hope you enjoyed that and took some pointers from it.
Thank you, Matthew. You were certainly stretched and challenged with this 7 minutes that we gave you there, so well done. That was great. So some great tips for us all there, and a reminder really how vital it is that we ensure that our learners, as Matthew has said, not only move through that zone of proximal development in our sessions, but actually are encouraged and inspired to do more than they think they can do. So thank you, Matthew. Right, last but not least of our NPTC group of colleges triple, we're going to take a look at bilingualism in construction, and to take us on that journey, I'd like to welcome Wyn Williams. Thank you, Wyn, and over to you.
Right, helo siwmai, gobeithio chi'n cadw'n glew. Chi gyd yn clywed fe? Right, rwy'n mynd i cyflwyniad hyn nawr ar dysgu ddwyieithog. Hello, my name is Wyn Williams, and I'm a carpentry lecturer with MPTC Group of Colleges. And this evening I'm going to talk about bilingual teaching. Right, if you have a look at that quote, that view, bilingualism causes language delay. Learning to read and write in two languages can cause difficulties and confusion. These old-fashioned views, in my opinion, I think they are. They were very popular views set back in the 70s and 80s, when a lot of parents thought children and students should only be taught through one language, and if they had two languages at home as well, it'd be too confusing. But to be honest, I think we've moved on since then. Give you an example, my own children who are fluent in both English and in Welsh, they go to Welsh school. They have Welsh with me at home and then English with their mother at home as well. So they can easily switch over, and it certainly hasn't held them back. Right, advantages and the benefits of a bilingual brain. Well, increases opportunities and choices, access to two cultures, so it encourages social interaction and it improves communication skills. Educational benefits, I would say it keeps the learner's mind active and alert and sharp when they switch over from one language to the other and when they're dealing with different tasks. Another thing as well, a big one, is employment advantages. So when you do teach your learners, you can tell them how Welsh is so important in all aspects of employment, even in construction. As a self-employed carpenter working around Carmarthenshire years ago, a lot of my work used to be for Welsh customers, speaking customers, and that brought me a lot of work in, and it was a big factor, I would say, in my employment for 16 years as a self-employed carpenter. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to ask you now to involve in this poll. I've got a QR code on the screen. So if you want to scan this on your phone, or one of my work colleagues has shared the link in the Teams chat box, and it's an audience poll regarding, do you think as a lecturer or a teacher or as a college that you bring enough Welsh and English in your teaching and learning? So if you ever go with that, I'll keep the screen on for a second for the QR code, but the link is shared, and there's about three questions on the poll. And if you ever go with that, and what I'll do then, I'll share the results then towards the end of the presentation. So moving on, how well do you know the language skills of your learners? So at the start of the academic year, do you know who speaks Welsh, how fluent they are, about the writing skills as well, and the reading skills in Welsh and English? And to be honest, like I said, as a lecturer myself, I do find it quite hard, especially at the start of the academic year. Sometimes it comes October, November, you don't realise some of the learners haven't told you at the start in September that they speak Welsh. So I don't really know until like perhaps in the autumn time. Could be confidence, they're too shy, and lot of their mindset is Welsh isn't important in college or in the workplace. So as soon as they leave school, they think that's it. Then they don't have to. Welsh is important. But I try to tell them that, especially in the workplace, especially if they want to start their own business, perhaps one day, or work in different companies in construction, that Welsh can be a big advantage. So what I've done for good practice is to do a questionnaire, because at the end of the day, it's quite hard to find out, like a previous slide said, what language skills they got. Okay, I know you can find out through enrollment and through their GCSE results, but that's not very. There's not enough information, in my opinion, regarding their Welsh language skills, Welsh and English language skills, really. So as a good practice, what I've done with my group of learners, I produced a questionnaire, which is shared in the link as well with my work colleague. So if you want to have a look at that, and it's got probing questions, which can stretch the answers as well. So at least then I can gather all the information, use that to plan my teaching for the rest of the academic year. And especially with the forms questionnaire, it's quick and easy, and the questionnaire is just multiple choices, and it gives you instant feedback, and the students can access this by QR code on the phone or log on to their student account then on the computer during lessons. I've even done this in the workshop as well, from the phones. So some of the questions I've got in the questionnaire, there's about 19 questions. I got question is like, which school do you go to? What previous education do you have? What language do you speak at home? What level of the Welsh language they got? What grasp they got? So is it fluent? Is it good? Are they a little bit of Welsh, but not confident? Another question I got in this screenshot is sgiliau darllen ac ysgrifennu Cymraeg, Welsh language and reading and writing skills. So what level do they think they are? So they've got to be honest and say, oh, well, it's excellent, it's good, or it's basic, it's simple. So with this data then, I gather it all together, and then I can start planning the teaching and learning for the rest of the year. By using this data, I can use it to plan the bilingual factor into my lessons. So, give you an example, I've gathered all the information now, and I produced then a learner's profile tracking sheet. So I've got it's all cut down into one little sheet now, and as you can see, I've got student 1 here who's gone to Coleg Gŵyr, so I know then it's a Welsh school. He or she's had good results in GCSE in the Welsh first language. And then the column across the right is asking what language would they prefer to speak to me or in college, and they say Welsh, Cymraeg, but what language would they like to undertake the writing and reading skills? So, like I said, with this data then, I produce a Moodle page, and I've got a bilingual Moodle page, which I'll share you now quickly now. And this Moodle page has got loads of resources, which is in English and Welsh 50-50. As you can see, the text is in blue, is in English, and the text is in red, is in Welsh, and that sticks out for them. So they know what they're reading, and they can compare then both languages and learn new terminology. So I've got resources in Welsh and in English, and moving down to the staircase one, which follows the sitting gills, the schemes of work. PowerPoints are in Welsh and English. I've got videos then in Welsh and English. So it's all completely bilingual. And to be honest, I've had good feedback from staff and the learners who are using it. So yeah, finally, before I show you the last slide now, I'll see if I can share you the results of the question or the poll for you. And as you can see there, which is, to be honest, I'm quite pleased with that. There's 49% teach both English and Welsh during the learning, which is great, So the secret is, in my opinion, is to drip feed the non-Welsh speakers every week, embed a little bit of Welsh every week in the lessons, and the fluent Welsh learners, stretch and challenge them, ask them to do the assessments in Welsh if you want, stretch them every week. So that is the best secret, to be honest. So yeah, so any questions, I'm more than willing that you can ask in the chat box or even send me an email then, okay? Diolch yn fawr chi, gobeithio bod chi wedi mwynhau cyflwyniad yna. So thank you very much. Hopefully you've enjoyed the presentation. And if you want to share some your experience and your tips with me, I'm more than welcome to receive them as well, okay? Diolch yn fawr chi.
Diolch Gwyn, that was great and very thought-provoking, especially your questionnaire for the learners. So some great tips there for bilingualism in practice, really effective. Thank you so much. Okay, finally then, before we come to closing comments, we have Hannah Pierce, Learning Area Manager of the Built Environment at Gower College, Swansea. Hannah's going to share with us how their consideration of the environment in curriculum design. So yet another extremely topical subject of the environment. So thank you, Hannah, over to you.
Thank you, Steph. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah. I'm the Learning Area Manager at Gower College for the Built Environment. And I'm just going to talk you through what we do here today. So first of all, what is the green agenda? And as an industry, we know construction, built environment, it is rapidly changing. There are new technologies and new needs, and we've seen that today in some of the presentations. We have to offer these opportunities to our students to develop their skills in the renewables and educate them on the importance of the built environment, but not only educationally, but the impact it has on their health, the happiness and the carbon footprint. And this is really where the green agenda comes in. So we're all about supporting retraining and moving into longer term skill jobs with higher earnings. So if we look at our students and learners, what we're really trying to build here is a sustainable sort of engineer builder. And with that, they would look at decreasing the amount of pollution that they would generate, not just during the construction and building process, but also the life cycle of the build. It's also improving the use of the energy throughout the life cycle of the product or of the building that they construct, and then maintaining economic efficiency throughout. So what do we do here at Gower College? The FE sector, as we all know, is wide-ranging and remarkably diverse. And what we have here at Gower College is academic and vocational courses, as well as work-based learning, and we have our Energy Centre, which is a training provider. The Energy Centre is a centre of excellence in providing training programmes in gas, electrical, plumbing and renewable energy. We have links with industry, both local and across the UK, and also links with local employers. So I'm just going to talk through briefly what we offer here in our Energy Centre and what we're looking to offer in the future. So the first thing that we offer is our electrical vehicle supply equipment, or EVSE, and this is our charging vehicles, electric vehicles. And as we know, this is growing rapidly, not only in the UK, but also globally. And they're saying by 2030, it's estimated that it would bring in $20.84 billion. So the course that we offer here covers the installation of the equipment, but also we go behind that and we look at the theory and we use practical rigs with our learners so they can really get into the process of developing the equipment. Another course that we offer here is the solar photovoltaic systems. And as we all know, this is a rising sector, not just in new builds, but also historic buildings. Now, normally when we think of the built environment, we think of new buildings, things that are coming from the ground up, but we've also got to think of restoration projects and also the historic buildings that we already have in place. And an example of this would be Bath Abbey, where they've looked at putting these PV panels in, and that has actually accounted for 35% of their annual usage. So as you can see on my slide here, we've got to the left, this is one of our PV panel rigs. These are the solar panels, and on the other side, which I'll show you on another slide now, is what those can power and how they power them. So the course delivery would all be about how we install those PV panels, but also how to commission the PV array. And then that can also link then to another course, which is all about battery storage, which I'll go on to talk about now. We also then, like I said previously, now have this energy storage system. So we're all about producing energy in, a carbon neutral way. So we're looking at the PV panels, etc. But we also need to think about then, because we produce so much of that energy, how can we store it if we don't use it? And this is what this course does. So you can link it to the others. And this can be done in a domestic, commercial and industrial environment. And we've based this around the IET Code of Practice and the British Standard 7671. And the photo here on the slide shows the rig that we've used. So the other side of that rig would be those PV panels that I showed you previously. But this one also shows right at the bottom, on the bottom is our battery storage system. And then in the middle there, you can see like the black and silver. That is actually the charging electrical vehicle that we just spoke about. So this rig, the students would be able to use and they'd be able to set up so they could see how it really works. So it's given them a real practical element to their learning. So that's what we do at the moment, and we do incorporate green into our everyday academic and vocational courses. But also what we're looking to do in the future is developing into smart home systems and appliances. So I'm sure all of you, or most of you, have got like an Alexa at home or some sort of system where that you ask them to do things. And if we think of this on a larger scale of new buildings in the built environment, we need to think about how really our buildings are going to be run off computers, how it can control the temperature, opening the windows, etc. So we're really going to look into developing those smart home systems and also this virtual reality in construction. So we've heard from Gareth today about the Convert project, and we've actually been a part of that, and some of our students have been down and they came to visit us over in Jubilee Court, where we looked at using the VR in building construction, wood machining and spray painting, and working at height and scaffolding. And the picture here is one of our students who was on this, and they absolutely loved it. So we're looking at bringing that into our other lessons and develop it into our A-level courses and right through these new qualifications that are coming in. We're also looking at developing a sustainable student and employee. So we want to get our learners to be a sustainable student, but also when they go out there into the real world, into the industry, they can bring that knowledge and skill set there. Because a lot of the times, in terms of the green agenda and sustainable engineers, we tend to look outside of Wales for that because we don't have the training here. So what we're looking at is bringing that back into Wales and really promoting what we have here in our own area, really. In our plumbing department as well, we're looking at our air heat source pumps. So we are having some new ones installed very shortly, and they will be fully functional at 3.5 kilowatts. So the students can use those as well and really learn from them. So that's all about what we do at the moment at Gower College in terms of green, but where we're looking forward in the future. And I'm hoping to work with a lot of you in developing that. So if there's any questions, I know we can't take them now, but please pop them in the chat, or if you want to contact me, let me know, and I'd love to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Again, so interesting, and I'm sure you have prompted everyone to think about their own programmes and how we can bring the green agenda effectively into FE, which brings us, so thank you again. This brings us very nicely to closing comments for today's event. And I'd like to welcome Chris Curtis from Pembrokeshire College. However, he's here today offering closing comments in his role as Welsh Regional Chair of British Association of Construction Heads. So, Chris, thank you for bringing this Teach Meet to a close by sharing, I'm sure, some very poignant thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph, and thanks to everybody for organising the event. Really, it's been fantastic, actually. Especially thanks to all the speakers for some really inspiring contributions. It's great to see the innovation and the downright hard work that's going on across Wales. So it's been a time of unprecedented challenge for construction staff over the last couple of years. We've had COVID, we've had lockdowns, we've had teaching online, we've had some assessment mitigations, which have been extra work actually, and a lot of practical assessments that we've had to get through despite all the restrictions. And on top of that, we're dealing with the biggest change to the curriculum for 20 years. But still, you and we as a team, we've overcome all that, and we've continued to give learners the best possible chances to progress into employment or higher study. As a current chair and a long-time member of Bach Wales, I regularly talk to all your bosses, and trust me, they know exactly how good you are and how hard you do work. And I can tell you, hand on heart, that your efforts and your commitment to your learners are appreciated and commented on regularly. So, you know, don't think, although your bosses might nag you occasionally, don't think they don't also appreciate and love you as well, because they do. But the changes we face, they're not stopping anytime soon. In September, we have the new Level 3 qualifications being launched across Wales. They'll be different from what's gone before. More flexibility in what we can teach, which is great, but also new challenges in assessment. Then there's a digital agenda. We've heard about it from Gareth and Hugh and others today. But by 23 or 24, there'll be a new digital skills qualification to be embedded in apprenticeships. That's a construction-specific qualification designed with input from employers and CATB to be taught by you, construction teams. Then, as Hannah has alluded to, there's the Green Challenge. Our new qualifications will continue to change quite quickly, actually, to ensure our learners have the knowledge and skills to adapt to the government's plans to insulate existing homes and to build new homes in a more energy efficient way. Now, I know you're up to that challenge, but you don't have to do it alone. Projects like Ian's platform for collaborating on shared resources will be extended across Wales, as Ian has explained earlier. And we have been promised from various bodies further resources to fund the development of more shared resources, working across Wales rather than everyone doing the same thing in different silos. So there'll be opportunities for construction staff right across Wales to be involved in developing new resources for the new qualifications for all of Wales. So hopefully, you know, that will, as Ian alluded to earlier, save a lot of duplication, a lot of wasted energies. So there's good news coming on that front. So I think it's fair to say that the new qualifications have helped to usher in a new era for construction education in Wales. I really do. I think it is the era of collaboration, the era of sharing and mutual support. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it grows and develops over the next couple of years. So that's it from me. I know you're all probably hungry for your dinners by now, and your stomachs are rumbling. So diolch yn fawr, everybody. Have a brilliant year ahead, and I hope to see more of you soon.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And Chris, I'd like to thank Chris for bringing this Teach Meet to a close. Any questions again in the chat, they'll all be followed up if there are any there. I'd like to just thank all of our contributors and our keynote speaker, Katie Morrison. I'd also like to thank Lucy and Maxon from ColegauCymru, who supported us as a PLN in putting this event together. But most of all, I'd like to thank those of you that are left at the last point for attending. I hope you've not just enjoyed it, but now have a number of things to think about within your practice. Lucy described these events at the beginning, these Teach Meet events, as providing an opportunity to share good practice and support knowledge as a sector. So I believe that's happened here this evening, and I hope you do too. So thank you again. Good night. Have a nice evening and take care in this wind.